I was lying in that cold hospital bed, my body still trembling from what had just happened, when my mother-in-law walked into the room and said, "You need to leave. This is a family matter now." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband stood beside her silent, avoiding my eyes like a coward. I was 25 years old, married for 3 years, and apparently I had just stopped being family. "What? What are you talking about?" I managed to whisper, my voice breaking. My father-in-law crossed his arms and added, "We've already called a lawyer. You have no rights here. Pack your things." The hospital room felt smaller suddenly. The beeping of machines around me became deafening. I had just lost our baby. Our baby. And they were treating me like an intruder. My husband James finally looked at me, but there was something cold in his eyes, something I had never seen before. "James, please." I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "It's better this way, Claire," he muttered. Better? Better? I had just been through hell, and this was his response. The nurses outside were whispering. Everyone could hear. Everyone was watching my humiliation unfold in real time. My heart wasn't just broken. It was shattered into pieces so small I didn't know if I'd ever find them all. Then his mother leaned closer and whispered something that made my blood freeze. "We know what you did." What had I done? What were they talking about? What I did? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't understand." My mother-in-law, Patricia, smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. My stomach dropped. It was me at a restaurant. With another man. "That's my cousin!" I shouted, trying to sit up despite the pain shooting through my abdomen. "That's David. He was helping me plan James's surprise birthday party." "Sure he was," Patricia said, putting her phone away. "A married woman, meeting strange men in secret. We've been watching you, Claire?" The room started spinning. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not after losing the baby. The hospital hallway outside was filling with people. James's siblings, his aunt, even some family friends. They had turned this into a public execution. "James, you know David. You met him at our wedding." I pleaded, reaching for my husband again. But James just shook his head. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Claire. My mother showed me the photos weeks ago. And now there's no baby to complicate things." No baby to complicate things? Those words hit me harder than any physical pain. He had been planning this. They all had been planning this. "Get out," Patricia commanded, pointing at the door. "Security is already on their way. You're not taking a single cent from this family." I looked around the room desperately, the IV in my arm, my hospital gown. I had nothing. No phone, no wallet, no dignity left. Then I heard footsteps. Confident, steady footsteps. A woman walked into the room. She was beautiful, perfectly dressed, and she looked at me like I was dirt on her expensive shoes. "Is she still here?" the woman asked, glancing at Patricia with familiarity that made my skin crawl. Patricia laughed. "Just finishing up, Amanda." "Give us a minute. Amanda." I knew that name. She was James's ex-girlfriend from college. The one he said meant nothing. The one he promised I'd never have to worry about. "James has been very patient with you, Claire," Amanda said, walking closer to my bed. "But patience runs out, especially when you're carrying another man's child." "What?" "No, that's insane." I tried to stand, but my legs were weak. "James, tell her. Tell them all. The baby was yours." But James wouldn't look at me. He was staring at Amanda with something in his eyes. Something I recognized because he used to look at me that way. Love. "Amanda and I reconnected 6 months ago." James finally spoke, his voice steady and cold. "She helped me see the truth about you, Claire. About your lies. Your manipulation. 6 months ago, when I told him I was pregnant, when I thought we were finally building our family. You've been cheating on me," I whispered, the realization hitting me like a truck. "All this time, you've been with her." "Don't try to flip this," Patricia snapped. "You're the cheater. You're the liar. My son deserves better than a gold-digging whore." The word echoed in the room. People in the hallway gasped. Some laughed. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and never exist again. Amanda walked over to James and took his hand. Right in front of me. In my hospital room. Security's here, James's father announced from the doorway. 2 security guards entered the room, and I felt my last shred of dignity slipping away. People were crowding the doorway now, phones out, recording. Someone was actually recording my worst moment. Please, I begged, looking at the guards. I just had a miscarriage. I can't even walk properly. Just give me a few hours. Hospital policy, ma'am, one guard said, not unkindly. Family requested your removal. We have to comply. But I am family. My voice cracked, tears streaming down my face. I'm his wife. Amanda laughed. Actually laughed. Not for long, sweetheart. The divorce papers are already drawn up. James filed them this morning, while I was losing our baby, while I was bleeding and crying and begging doctors to save the child I loved more than anything. You filed for divorce today? I looked at James, searching for any hint of the man I married. I was in surgery, James. Our baby died, and you were signing papers? The baby wasn't mine, he said simply, like he was commenting on the weather. The DNA test proved it. What DNA test? I screamed, not caring who heard anymore. I've been faithful. I've never even looked at another man. Patricia stepped forward, holding up a document. This DNA test, taken from your prenatal screening, it shows conclusively that James was not the father. The room went silent. Everyone stared at me, judging, condemning. That's impossible, I whispered. Let me see it. She pulled it away. You've seen enough. Now get out before we have you arrested for trespassing. James's sister was recording on her phone, smirking. His brother whispered something to his wife, and they both laughed. The guards moved closer. One of them reached for my arm. Then a voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Stop! Nobody touches her. Everyone froze. The voice came from the doorway, deep and authoritative. A tall man in a white coat pushed through the crowd. Dr. Martinez. He was the head of the obstetrics department and had been overseeing my care. This patient is under my supervision, Dr. Martinez said firmly. She's not going anywhere until I clear her medically, and I certainly won't allow her to be forcibly removed while recovering from trauma. Patricia's face turned red. Doctor, this is a family matter. We have every right? You have no rights in my hospital, he interrupted, his voice like steel. Security, please escort these visitors out. All of them. This patient needs rest. You can't do that, James protested. I'm her husband. Dr. Martinez looked at him with pure disgust. Then act like it. Get out, now. The security guards, looking relieved, started ushering everyone toward the door. Amanda clung to James's arm, whispering furiously. Patricia was shouting about lawyers and lawsuits. But slowly, the room emptied. Until it was just me, alone. The silence was deafening. Worse than the shouting, worse than the accusations. I stared at the ceiling, listening to my own heartbeat on the monitor. Beep, beep, beep. Each sound a reminder that I was alive, even though I wished I wasn't. My baby was gone. My husband had betrayed me. His entire family had humiliated me in front of strangers. And for what? A lie? A setup? I touched my stomach. Still swollen. Still aching. Empty now. I'm so sorry, I whispered to the child who would never hear me. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. The tears came then. Not the desperate, panicked tears from before. These were quiet, hollow. The tears of someone who had nothing left to lose. I didn't even know who I was anymore without them. Hours passed. Maybe days. I couldn't tell. Then Dr. Martinez came back, and he wasn't alone. Dr. Martinez walked in with a woman I'd never seen before. She was in her 50s, wearing an elegant suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Her eyes were sharp but not unkind. Claire, this is Margaret Chen. She's a lawyer, Dr. Martinez said gently. And a friend of mine. I asked her to come. I shook my head weakly. I can't afford a lawyer. I don't even have my purse. They took everything. Margaret sat down beside my bed and smiled. You're not paying me, honey. What happened here today was witnessed by half the hospital staff. I'm taking your case pro bono, and trust me, we're going to bury them. There's nothing to bury them with, I whispered. They have a DNA test. They have photos. They have everything planned. About that DNA test, Dr. Martinez said, pulling out his tablet. I've been reviewing your medical records. Something didn't add up, so I made some calls. He showed me his screen. Medical documents. Lab reports. Claire, that DNA test Patricia showed you? It's fake. Completely fabricated, he explained. I contacted the lab that supposedly processed it. They have no record of any test being ordered for you or your baby. My heart stopped. What? Margaret leaned forward. They forged it, Claire. Your mother-in-law created a fake document to justify throwing you out. That's fraud. That's defamation. And depending on how deep this goes, it could be conspiracy. But why? I asked, my voice breaking. Why would they do this to me? Doctor. Martinez hesitated, then said, There's something else you need to know. I shouldn't be telling you this, but given the circumstances, James came to me 3 months ago. He asked about paternity testing. Said he wanted it done without your knowledge. 3 months ago, right after I told his family I was pregnant. He was planning this, I whispered. From the beginning. Not just him, Margaret said, opening her briefcase. I did some digging this afternoon. Your husband's family is very wealthy, correct? I nodded. And you signed a prenuptial agreement? Yes, but it was fair. His lawyer said. Margaret's expression darkened. Claire, that prenup was designed to leave you with nothing if the marriage ended within 5 years. And guess what happens in 2 months? My blood ran cold. Our 5th anniversary. Exactly. The next morning, I was still in the hospital when they came back. All of them. James, Patricia, Amanda, even James's father and siblings. They walked in like they owned the place. We're here to finish this, Patricia announced, waving papers in the air. Sign the divorce agreement, Claire. It's over. But this time I wasn't alone. Margaret stood up from the chair beside my bed, straightening her suit. Who the hell are you? Patricia demanded. Margaret Chen, Mrs. Whitmore's attorney, she said coldly. And you're all trespassing, again, James laughed nervously. Claire can't afford an attorney. Nice try. I don't need to afford her, I said, my voice stronger than yesterday. She's representing me because what you did to me is illegal. Amanda rolled her eyes. Oh, please, the Victim Act is getting old. Margaret stepped forward, holding up a document. This is the DNA test you showed my client yesterday. The one claiming James isn't the father. Patricia's face went pale for just a second. That's right. Proof of her infidelity. Except it's fake, Margaret said flatly. The lab never processed this test. The signatures are forged. The case number doesn't exist. You fabricated evidence to defame and emotionally abuse a woman who just lost her child. The room went dead silent. That's ridiculous, James's father blustered. You're lying. Dr. Martinez entered right on cue, holding his tablet. I have the lab director on video call right now. Would you like him to confirm it personally? James looked at his mother, panic flashing across his face. Mom, you said, shut up, James, Patricia hissed. But it was too late. Everyone heard it. The perfect family mask was cracking, and we could all see the ugliness underneath. You knew, I said, staring at James. You knew it was fake, and you went along with it anyway. It doesn't matter, Amanda said quickly, grabbing James's arm. You two are still getting divorced. James doesn't want you anymore. Margaret smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. About that. Claire, would you like to tell them, or should I? Caracteres neste bloco. 2193 tentar novamente R3 next. Tente passar pouco do limite com 3.200 caracteres. 4 bloco 8. Revelação inesperada. I took a deep breath, sitting up straighter despite the pain. Margaret had spent all night showing me documents, emails, text messages. Everything I needed to know. Everything that had been hidden from me. You want to know why they did this? I said, looking directly at James. It's not about love. It's not even about Amanda. It's about money. James shifted uncomfortably. Claire, don't. Your grandmother left you an inheritance, I continued, my voice getting stronger. $20 million. But there was a condition, wasn't there, James? Patricia's face went white as a sheet. Margaret picked up where I left off, reading from a document. The inheritance can only be accessed if James is married and has produced an heir before his 30th birthday, which is in 4 months. The room erupted. James's siblings started shouting. His father was demanding to see the papers. You were using me, I said, tears streaming down my face but my voice steady. You got me pregnant on purpose. You needed me to give you a child so you could get your grandmother's money. But then Amanda came back into your life, didn't she? Amanda's smug expression faltered. You wanted Amanda, but you needed me pregnant, I continued. So you came up with this plan. Fake a DNA test. Accuse me of cheating. Divorce me before the 5-year mark, so the prenup leaves me with nothing. Then you'd take the baby, claim it as yours, get the inheritance, and run off with her. That's insane, Patricia shouted. You have no proof. Margaret pulled out her phone and pressed play. James's voice filled the room. Mom, are you sure this will work? Claire's not stupid. What if she fights back? Patricia's voice responded. She won't. She's weak. She has no family, no money, no support. We'll crush her, take the baby, and by the time she figures out what happened, it'll be too late. The recording continued. Plans, strategies, how they'd fabricate evidence, how they'd turn everyone against me, how they'd make sure I looked like an unfit mother. They had planned every single detail of my destruction, and they had recorded themselves doing it. James lunged for Margaret's phone, but Dr. Martinez blocked him. I wouldn't, the doctor said quietly. Hospital security is right outside and they've heard everything. Where did you get that? Patricia screamed. That's illegal. That's invasion of privacy. Actually, Margaret said calmly, it came from James's own phone. He accidentally uploaded it to the family's shared cloud drive 3 weeks ago. Claire had access as his wife. Perfectly legal. I watched them all fall apart. James was hyperventilating. Patricia was screaming about lawyers. Amanda was backing toward the door, realizing she'd been caught up in something criminal. But here's the thing you didn't know, I said softly, and everyone stopped to listen. The baby you were planning to steal? The heir you needed for the inheritance? I paused, letting the moment hang there. I'm still pregnant. The room exploded into chaos. James grabbed my shoulders. What? But the doctor said. I lost one baby, I said, pulling away from him. I was carrying twins. The doctors managed to save one, your son, the heir to your grandmother's fortune. Patricia looked like she might faint. No, that's not possible. Dr. Martinez stepped forward. It's very possible, and it's documented in all of Claire's medical records. Records that are now in the hands of her attorney. Margaret smiled that dangerous smile again. So here's what's going to happen. Claire is still legally married to James, which means she still qualifies under the terms of the grandmother's will. The baby, when born, will be the legitimate heir. And thanks to your little recording, we have proof of conspiracy, fraud, and emotional abuse. You can't do this, James whispered, his face ashen. That money is mine. Was yours, I corrected. Now it's our son's, and I'll be managing it as his guardian. Amanda finally spoke, her voice shaking. James, you told me she wasn't pregnant anymore. You said it was over. Shut up, Amanda, he screamed. But she didn't. You told me we'd be together. You said after the divorce. I said shut up. Margaret wasn't finished. She pulled out another folder, this one thick with documents. There's more, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Claire, your husband has been systematically draining your joint accounts for the past 6 months. Every penny you earned, every gift you received, transferred to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. She threw bank statements on the bed, highlighted transactions. Thousands of dollars. Tens of thousands. He emptied your savings, Margaret continued. The money your parents left you when they died. The inheritance that was supposed to be yours. Gone. I stared at the papers, unable to breathe. My parents' money? James, that was all I had left of them. He said nothing. just stood there caught. But here's where it gets interesting, Margaret said, turning to face Patricia. The offshore account isn't in James's name. It's in yours, Patricia. You've been embezzling from your own daughter-in-law. Patricia's face turned purple. That's a lie. I would never— Bank records don't lie, Margaret interrupted. And neither do email chains between you and James discussing how to secure Claire's assets before she realizes what's happening. That's theft. That's financial abuse. And combined with the fake DNA test and the conspiracy to take her child, you're looking at serious prison time. James's father stepped back, distancing himself. I had nothing to do with this. Patricia, what the hell have you done? Shut up, Richard. Patricia screamed at her husband. This little bitch doesn't deserve our family's money. She came from nothing. She trapped our son. I loved your son, I shouted back, finally finding my voice. I worked 2 jobs to support us through business school. I gave up my career so he could build his. I gave him everything, and you treated me like garbage from day one. The hospital room door opened, and 2 police officers walked in, followed by Dr. Martinez. Officers, Margaret said calmly, handing them a folder. These are the individuals I called about. Fraud, conspiracy, theft, and emotional abuse of a vulnerable patient. James backed against the wall. You can't arrest me. I'm a Whitmore. My family has lawyers. Your family's lawyers are going to be very busy, one officer said, pulling out handcuffs. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. Amanda tried to run, but the second officer blocked the door. Ma'am, you're listed as a co-conspirator in the fraud case. You'll need to come with us, too. I watched them being handcuffed. All of them. James, Patricia, Amanda. James's father was shouting about his connections, his influence, his power. But the officers didn't care. Claire, please, James begged as they led him out. Don't do this. Think about our future. Think about the baby. I am thinking about the baby, I said quietly. That's why I'm making sure he never grows up thinking this kind of behavior is acceptable. Patricia spat at me as they dragged her past my bed. You'll regret this, you little whore. My family will destroy you. Margaret stepped in front of me, blocking her. Try it. Please, I would love to add more charges. As they were led away, James's siblings scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Fairweather family members who wanted nothing to do with the scandal. The room finally fell silent again. Dr. Martinez approached my bed gently. How are you feeling, Claire? I touched my stomach where my surviving baby was growing. Safe. Protected. I'm feeling like I can finally breathe. Margaret sat down beside me, her expression softening. You're incredibly brave, you know that. I don't feel brave, I admitted. I feel destroyed. Destroyed things can be rebuilt, she said. Stronger than before. And you won't be alone. I'm going to make sure you get every penny back plus damages. By the time we're done, you and your son will never have to worry about money again. 3 months later, I stood in a courtroom, my baby bump now visible under my dress. The same people who had tried to destroy me sat across the aisle, their expensive lawyers whispering frantically. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the final documents. The silence was suffocating. In all my years on the bench, she finally said, I have rarely seen such calculated cruelty. Mrs. Whitmore, Patricia Whitmore, you orchestrated a campaign of psychological torture against a pregnant woman. You fabricated evidence, conspired to commit fraud, and embezzled funds that were not yours. Patricia sat stone-faced, but I could see her hands trembling. Mr. James Whitmore, the judge continued, you violated every vow you made to your wife. You planned to steal her child, her dignity, and her future. Miss Amanda Chen, you willingly participated in this conspiracy. The judge looked directly at me. Mrs. Claire Whitmore, I want you to know that this court sees you. We hear you. And we believe you. Those words broke something open inside me. Tears streamed down my face. I hereby grant the divorce with the following terms. Claire Whitmore receives full custody of the unborn child. James Whitmore is ordered to pay child support based on his full income, including the inheritance he will receive. All stolen funds totaling $347,000 must be returned immediately with interest. Patricia stood up. Your Honor, that's not fair. That inheritance is my son's birthright. Sit down, the judge commanded, her voice like thunder. You're lucky you're not going to prison, though the criminal charges are still pending. She wasn't finished. Additionally, Claire Whitmore is awarded the family home, 2 vehicles, and 50% of all marital assets. The prenuptial agreement is deemed invalid due to fraud and coercion. And finally, the judge paused, looking at James with pure disgust. James Whitmore is prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Claire or the child. He may have supervised visitation only after the child turns 2 years old, pending psychological evaluation and parenting classes. James shot up from his seat. You can't keep me from my son. That's my heir. My grandmother's will... Your grandmother's will stipulates you must be married with a child, the judge interrupted. You're getting divorced, which means, according to my reading of the trust documents, you've forfeited the inheritance entirely. The courtroom erupted. James's lawyer was shouting. Patricia was screaming. Amanda was crying. But Margaret just squeezed my hand and smiled. Wait, James said desperately, turning to me. Claire, we don't have to do this. We can work it out. Stay married. For the baby. For the money. We can figure it out. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I had loved. This man who had destroyed me. No, I said simply. We can't. But the inheritance. It's $20 million. We could share it. We could... I don't want your blood money, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I don't want anything from your family except distance. My son will grow up knowing his father chose greed over love. And that will be your legacy, James. Not the money. The choice. The judge banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. As I walked out of the courtroom, past the reporters, past the cameras, past James's family glaring at me with pure hatred, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Free. 6 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I named him Daniel after my father. Not a Whitmore name. Not a family name. Just ours. Margaret came to visit me in the hospital. A different hospital. In a different city. Far from those people. The criminal charges stuck, she told me, holding Daniel gently. Patricia got 2 years probation and community service. James lost his business license for fraud. Amanda's facing separate charges. And the inheritance? I asked, not because I cared, but because I was curious. Margaret smiled. It went to charity. James's grandmother had a clause that if he failed to meet the requirements through his own misconduct, the money would go to women's shelters and children's hospitals. She was a smart woman. I laughed. Actually laughed. She knew. She knew what kind of people they were. She did, Margaret confirmed, and she made sure they'd never profit from cruelty. As I held my son, feeling his tiny heartbeat against my chest, I realized something. They had tried to break me. They had humiliated me, stolen from me, lied about me, and nearly destroyed everything I was. But I was still here, still standing, still breathing. And my son would grow up knowing that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't deserve you. James tried to contact me once, a year later. A long email about regrets and mistakes and how he'd changed. I deleted it without reading past the first line. Some people don't deserve second chances. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. And some people deserve to live with the consequences of their choices forever. I'm 27 now. A single mother. A survivor. And every time I look at my son's face, I see hope. Not the family that tried to destroy us. Just hope. That's my story. Not a fairy tale. Not a revenge fantasy. Just the truth about what happens when you refuse to let cruelty win. They wanted to erase me. Instead, I erased them from my life. And I've never been happier.